exciting.
Well, then we can
Just film. You're recording.
This is filming now. So,
Excellent.
The
So this is Cllr TV.
Yeah, I'm Richard Taylor, and this is Councillor Ian Manning, and we're here at the North Area Committee. And Councillor Manning has offered me during Twitter the opportunity to ask him about the local highways improvement scheme. So, Councillor Manning, I find it very unusual that decisions about roads in the area, making the roads safer or making the roads prettier, are taken at a behind closed doors panel meeting. So, why does that happen? Are you happy with that?
So the meeting we're referring to is the meeting that scores the LHI applications and decides within the available budget which ones go on the list. And yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it should take place behind closed doors. I think there are issues around people presenting to a panel and being quizzed and being made nervous, but you know, at the end of the day, they want to make changes to the public highway. I think they should be willing to.
Well, I do too. And people do come here to the area, or to the North Area Committee, and to other area committees making suggestions, and they get referred to this private panel meeting.
Yeah, I don't agree with it.
And last year, I don't know if you're aware that the actual decision-making Highways Committee wouldn't allow councillors to comment at that stage. Councillors aren't allowed to go into this private panel, as far as I'm aware.
I wasn't aware of as far as I'm aware, they get voted on through the HCI committee in public.
Yes, they do. But the chair at that meeting
it's essentially just rubber stamping.
Yes, exactly. It's a rubber stamping. The chair at that committee last year said there was no time to look at the individual projects.
No. Well, that is simple.
So, and the other thing I'd like to about this process is this idea that the applicant should put forward 10% of the money, but we've got this complicating factor that the city council will, in some cases, put forward that 10%. So how is that whole system working?
So there's probably think about it in two ways. If you apply for the LHI process to try and get it fully funded, basically by the councils,
is that an option? Is there a mechanism for that? So where is that mechanism?
It's on the county council website.
But it isn't. The application form requires the applicant to underwrite that 10%.
Okay. We need to look at the application form together. What it's supposed to be, and the way it's worked for the last 2-3 years, is you apply via the county LHI process. A couple of things on the form: you need to get support of various people. Like you say, you can support councillors, say you put support.
And if I've got an idea, whose name do I put down as an applicant?
Your name down.
But doesn't that give me the liability to pay the 10%, which in many cases is thousands of pounds?
It doesn't. If you're worried, you can put my name down.
Well, that's
and
why
tell me about it.
Yeah.
If you don't tell me about it, but really, you should go to your actual ward councillor, who would be Councillor Machine, because you're King's Hedges. So really, I would say.
But she might not underwrite this risk.
No, neither of us are going to underwrite the risk.
Well, you just offered to do so.
I haven't.
If you put your name down as an applicant.
I haven't offered.
As part of that form, you would then have to sign that form and agree to pay the 10% if it gets funded.
So what happens is the city council contributes to 10%.
But we don't. How do we know that that's going to happen? Because the city council's website does it say that might happen.
I'll see if I can get the text clarified for you.
Well, that would be very useful. And the application, because
I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but the way the process is supposed to work and the way it has worked for the last 3 years is whether a councillor applies on behalf of a resident, or a resident applies themselves on behalf of the councillor. The way it's always worked is that if their scheme gets into the allocated budget, the 10% contribution the county needs comes from the city EIP process. And that's the way it's worked for the last 3 years. There's never been a case where an individual has been liable for 10%. The only cases where that's not true is when you don't go through that LHI process. So say you as a private resident decide that you're willing to pay 100% of the costs of some random scheme. If you take that forward and you can get a council to support it and officers to support it, there is a privately funded initiative.
Which is a separate parallel process.
It's a separate process, which I have issues with, by the way. I don't think it's a little bit dubious in terms of.
Well, it's cash for double yellow lines. I've challenged you on it before.
I think in the couple of cases that I've dealt with it, I've not had an issue. I do agree with you. There is a potentially larger issue. If somebody, for example, said, "I've got £5 million, I want to change Milton Road via an LHI," theoretically via the process that's possible. Now that would be a problem, but ultimately all these.
But that is happening on a smaller scale. We've got rich, small resident associations, like the case on Milton Road.
It's not.
On Union Lane.
Remember though,
putting the double yellow lines in.
Remember though, you still need a traffic regulation order. So it still has to go technically before CJAC, so it has to go to in public.
Has that group of people who got the double yellow lines on Union Lane, have they actually paid up yet, do you know?
Not off the top of my head, I don't know.
So just one other question on this.
They wouldn't pay to me, so I'd have to go and check with the county officers.
And so on the policy for the local highways improvements with the 10% funded potentially by the City Council, one of the aspects of that policy in recent years...
a camera. I'm worried I'm going to get shadowed.
...has been that only one application can be made per person or per body, when effectively if the City Council are essentially the applicants because they're paying the 10% for lots of these projects, isn't that at odds with the County Council's policy? Or hasn't it been at odds?
Yes.
So isn't this a big problem because it looks as if, well, can we get this problem fixed and ideally for this next process?
Personally, I don't think there should be a limit on applications because actually it should be on the merit of the application. So in theory, you could have a deprived area that needed a lot of work done to it, and the entirety of the budget could go on that one area. So but yes, you're right. The letter of what's written down hasn't been adhered to.
Right, just last point.
It hasn't caused a problem.
Councillor Amanda Taylor's actually promised me that she would take a motion to the full council to formally open up the local highways improvement member panel to the public. That hasn't happened. She hasn't done that. Is that something that you would be prepared to do, or can you explain why it's allowed to be behind closed doors in the first place, as it is a decision-making body?
I think the mechanism. Well, I'm happy with the principle of what you're saying. I think probably it doesn't need to go to full council. I think it probably needs to go to the HTNI committee.
So will you take it there?
If I can, I'm trying to remember how the constitution works. It might be we need a member of the committee to do it, but I'm happy to follow that up.
Well, you could do it as a member of the public. You could go on.
No, what I mean is I'm happy to follow up getting that change made. The mechanism.
I think we've got till February 2018, haven't we? And it's now September 2017. So
I'm happy,
we've got a few months.
I'm happy to follow up the principle. The mechanism for getting that change made, I don't know.
And that will mean that people will actually get to see the decisions on whether or not their commutes to work get made safer or not, or whether or not all the resources
and also the other
making
thing.
Things prettier.
I don't personally agree. I think there is a one-size-fits-all approach to the scoring, which I don't think is appropriate. Exactly the same criteria used for a village somewhere in Fenland, which may have a load of rural roads, for example, that no one cycles down, as are used for a very dense residential street in Cambridge, which I don't think is appropriate.
Well, one of the problems, I think, is that the policies are focused on areas where there is a parish council, because if there's a parish council, you have to have it considered by and supported by a parish council. It would make a lot of sense if the North Area Committee was considered like a parish council, and as has happened actually in previous years, if they came here, we could actually see them in public beforehand.
Sort of, we do, because
they haven't come to the North Area Committee this year.
It's not quite true, because
last year.
The principle is that the North Area Committee have agreed that portion of the AFP budget automatically supports the AHI stream. So we've sort of delegated our power away, if you like.
Yes, you delegated it to a meeting. Now, as that the meeting's holding, as you just said, delegated power from the North Area Committee, doesn't that mean that I have a right to go and observe it?
It's a budget. Legally, I don't know. Possibly, you're right.
Well, I think.
Remember, I agree that it should be a public meeting. So you're asking the wrong person in the sense that you're challenging the person, because I agree that you should be a public meeting.
Yeah, and would you say that you don't have the ability to get an answer to that question as to whether or not, and neither do I. I can't afford to ask for
a judicial review. Why? You mean because the delegated?
It's got delegated powers to effectively. Well,
I think the issue you've got there is you've got two councillors involved, so there's I couldn't go to the county legal officer and ask them for the definitive ruling. I suspect, because there's two councils involved. But ultimately, that's all going to be sorted out, isn't it? If we could get it out in public.
Yeah. What about and if you don't succeed, then perhaps, would you join me in February in trying to observe this meeting?
Well, the problem is that what will happen. I'll happily go along with you if I've got free time. Yeah. But all that will happen is we'll be told we can't observe the meeting. So I don't really see the point of it. I don't really want to waste an evening when I could be going out dancing or something.
So you think that if you turned up to the local highways improvement member panel in February, you think,
I don't know. I'm just saying if that was what it might be that I'm allowed in as a councillor and you're told because you're a member of the public. Ultimately, if it's held in Shire Hall somewhere,
in which case I'd offer you the camera and I'll say, well, just take the camera in and we'll get it on the internet afterwards.
But as much as I agree with you, if my peers have democratically voted to say that thing can't be videoed or can't be observed, then I'm not actually.
But that hasn't ever happened, has it? No one's actually had the guts to do that.
Then
the Highways Committee hasn't actually hasn't been clear and hasn't said.
Okay, well, we'll try and get it clear. So I'm trying to try and get it clear.
Let's at least clarity would be good, because up until the weeks before the last panel was weeks before the last panel, Councillor Blencoe thought he would be chairing it as a councillor.
Right.
And he told the East Area Committee that. He told the East Area Committee and essentially the public in Cambridge that would be open to the public.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a far from perfect process.
Well, let's get it fixed. It's important stuff.
Absolutely.
You
could get elected, Richard. Then you could go in if you want. Yeah, you could stand for election.
I'm happy to stand if I'm nominated.
But you could go and gather 10 nominations.
Well, I'm putting my views forward. And if people want to,
there you go, people.
Stand.
Nominate Richard, and he'll stand as a councillor for King's Hedges.
Yeah, absolutely.
All you've got to do is randomly nominate him.
Yeah, genuine nominations.
Actually,
in good time.
Remember, you've got to be a King's Hedges resident as well. That's the other issue.
I'd happily stand for. I don't need to stand in the ward I live in. I'd happily stand for Market or Arbury. I've got good knowledge of those.
By the way, I'm not endorsing Richard, just to be clear. I would obviously want to live down.
But by genuine nominations, I do mean that people actually want me to be a councillor, because I would have to then put a lot of time in. If I had those 10 nominations, I would then put a lot of time in.
The other issue is you have to sign the code of conduct, of course.
Code of conduct, yeah. Well, I consider that. What happens?
We'd have to sign it, councillor.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I'm definitely going to lose. So.
Thank you very much, Councillor Manning.